welcome to the Clifton Worley Show. This week we have Anthony Chang as our guest. Welcome,
What's up?
Anthony.
Thank you, thank you.
Hey, man. So I just wanted to introduce you to our listeners, and I'm sure several of them already know you um, with Sinusoid, but
hmm
wanted everybody to kind of get to know you a little bit more on a personal level here. And
Sure, yeah,
so, Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and we'll kind of go from there.
sounds good. Well, born and raised in Seattle, North Seattle actually. And if you know anything about Sinusoid, we're up in Linwood, which is like 2 towns north of Seattle, so it's all
Okay.
close to me. I've been here my whole life. I love it. I don't think I would consider living anywhere else. Um, Other than that, public school went over to University of Washington for bachelor's in marketing and graphic design, and now I'm kind of just chilling, doing this stuff. I worked in marketing and dabbled here and there in freelance and web development and web design, things like that for a little bit, and almost what is it? Almost 2 years ago now, I was asked by Paul Moon at Sinusoid to join on, and now we're here talking to each other on the phone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you are a musician
hmm
as well. Let's start there a little bit and just kind of get a little backstory.
Yeah, sure. Well, the thing with Chinese parents, most Asian parents, honestly, is they're really they're really heavy on piano and violin.
Hmm.
I don't know why. They just are, and so I started to play the piano in like second grade or first grade, which is late for most Asians, but whatever. I played piano for 10 or 15 years, and um, toward middle school, I went to Washington Middle School down in the International District, and they had a really strong orchestra program. So I figured I'd check it out. A lot of my friends were playing in the orchestra or in band, and so I figured, why not tag along, have a good time with them. And I ended up playing violin through high school over at Garfield, which is like a multiple, uh, like it's just a very very decorated orchestra program, um, and that was good. Playing here and there, and of course, as soon as I hit late high school and early college, I realized that that age old cliche that gals like a fella that plays a guitar. So I asked my mom for my first acoustic, which I still play. It's an old Ibanez from like the '90s or something. Um, Pretty beat up when I got it, but I love it, and it sounds surprisingly good for $100 guitar.
And you
Um,
said that was acoustic or electric? I didn't catch that.
it was just an old acoustic. We went down to the pawn shop and we're looking at all these ratty old acoustics, and then there was this one that I had my eye on that was in a little bit nicer condition, and nice and clean. Sounded pretty good. I didn't know what I was listening for, but as it turns out, it still sounds pretty still sounds pretty good. And I still play that one. I've never bought another acoustic. Uh, so around that time you start playing around with guitar, playing around with piano at church, and I was helping with the youth group worship and planning out worship events and things like that. Started noodling around on the electric and realized that was really what I enjoyed. Aside from just looking cool, they're just really beautiful instruments, but also the range of sound and emotion that you can get through them was really inspiring. So yeah, my first electric was a beat up old wine red Mexican Strat that I bought and like parts casted together with a bunch of random stuff. It was super ugly, and I traded it away, and ended up going the Les Paul route. And now I have 3 Pauls and 3 Tallys and a couple other guitars. Don't judge me. Um, but
No
yeah,
judgment there.
yeah. I mean, I've been playing electric for probably 12 or so years now, 10 or 12 years, and I haven't looked back. You know, it's still my favorite instrument to play by far. The tools that are available, especially now, to shape and to modify and change our tone is really it's something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's something.
I know. I can relate to what you said. My first electric was a wine red Fender Strat as well,
Oh wow, nice, nice.
and I had mine. I probably held on to mine for about 10 years,
Hmm.
and just a few years ago, I ended up selling that off to fund something else, another
Hmm.
guitar. It's kind of like not the it guitar anymore.
Yeah, it's just not as I don't know. It's not like the sexy, exciting
Yeah,
pick anymore.
yeah,
Still
and
a great guitar.
when I went to a guitar store to like pick my first one out,
Hmm.
I played a Telly and a Strat, and I guess it was just my ignorance back then, but like the main deciding factor was that the Strat had a 5-way pickup selector,
Okay.
and the
Yeah.
Telly only
Just
had
had the
like
three.
had the 3, and I was like, "Oh, I can get more tones out of this." And that was like solely my, main deciding point was I can get more tones out of a Stratocaster.
Well, that's reasonable, I guess, but I probably had a similar thought. I actually initially really hated the Telecaster look because I thought it looked really stupid. Um, Man, that did my opinion did my opinion change or what? Um, so yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
So you got you said about 3 Les Pauls and 3 Tellys and some other guitars.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, what's the rest of your rig look like?
So I play through a Blues Junior with a modded something that I can't remember. I switched out the speaker for some import, I don't know, like Chinese or Japanese speaker that was supposedly pretty good. Sounds good, man. I like the Blues Junior. I like that it's small. I don't like that it's freakishly heavy, but
Mm-hmm.
it just
Mm-hmm.
means I need to work out more. And then I used to have a pedal board with like 16 or 17 effects, and it was just a nightmare on my back and shoulders to the point where um, one Sunday I played on Sunday morning, and then I loaded up and drove to the east side over to Bellevue to play at our other church, um, and unloaded, played for like 3 or 4 hours, and then loaded up again, and then drove home. And when I got out of the shower that night, my back spasmed so hard that I couldn't
Mm.
actually do anything other than lay down. So that was about turning point for me for the big, like the ground control, like Houston, we have a problem style pedal
Mm.
board. So now I have 5 pedals on a pedal train Nano.
Okay.
It's the Polytune, the little baby one, and the TC Spark, also the mini. I've got a EP booster, Black Cat Tram, and a Diamond Memory Lane Junior, and that's all I use, and that's all I need.
Interesting. Yeah. I can very much relate to what you said there.
Mhm.
Not that I'm having problems with my back, but
Sure.
I have wanted to scale down, considerably since I put together like a pedal board. I've got a one that's about the size of a pedal train
Hmm.
pro,
Okay.
but like it's a homemade board,
Okay.
and I couldn't even fill it up, and then I brought that and like a 36-watt head, two by 12 cab, and all that stuff on a trip last year to play at a camp,
Yeah.
and it was so frustrating, like getting, I drive like a fairly small car,
Hmm.
and it was frustrating, like getting all that gear
Loading it
inside
all
my,
in. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm like,
for
this is
sure.
just ridiculous. Like I got to scale
Yeah.
down. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I as well play a Blues Junior now most of the time,
Yeah. It's a great little amp.
and yeah, I love those amps.
Hmm.
It's like it's so versatile because
Hmm.
I can crank up and play loud, or I can still sound good at a low volume on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Even when I was playing gigs, I don't think I ever really got past two or three on the master volume, and I just let the sound guys do whatever they want.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a super loud amp for 350 bucks, $400.
yeah.
So
It's a value for sure, and
yeah,
I
it's a
know
steal.
there are people who hate them, but I think if you spend any time playing with it, like you can find a way to make them sound good. And
Big time. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
for sure. Yeah, man.
So you've been playing kind of in and out of church and stuff. Kind of tell us a little bit more about like what are you interested in musically and
Sure. Well, playing for church means relatively limited in terms of style.
hmm
You've got like the current trend, which is just pads to hold the song together, and I have a lot of strong feelings about that. I
hmm
understand that it's necessary and it helps set the tone and get people into the vibe, but it's also just musically lazy. Like pads and swells they're not hard really by any stretch of the imagination. uh, but most of what I listen to actually is I listen to a lot of rock, a lot of pop punk. I know we've had discussion about that lately in the Gear Slum podcast group. I listen to a lot of hardcore and metalcore, which is a lot more technically driven. Um, Obviously, there's a range, but it's a lot more technically um, interesting and impressive in terms of skill.
yeah.
Playing some of these riffs, and actually
Do you,
pull a lot of. Oh, sorry. Um,
yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna I'll ask you this in a second.
okay. Um, I pull a lot of inspiration from the parts that I play at church from songs that I like, and I, there aren't many Asians that listen to angry music, and when we find each other, it's usually an experience.
Do you find that hard? I know there's a lot of guys in the gear world who play at church,
Hmm.
and the popularity of even a scaled back. I had this discussion with Chris Sly a few weeks ago
Hmm.
about there was a church he was at where the whole thing was let's make this as easy as we can so that like
Hmm.
we can rehearse once and then come in and we sound professional. So we're going to
Hmm.
use all these stems and these tracks and these pads
Oh wow.
to make it easy. And they're going to email you this and that you practice just this, play just this part, and we're playing to the CD.
Hmm.
And there is merit to that,
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
But at the same time, like I know a lot of musicians who feel very unhappy,
Hmm.
um, kind of
Kind
working on.
of trapped. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
for
and
sure.
and you coming from that other world where you like some of this more technically based music,
Hmm.
is it?
Hmm.
How do you marry those two together in your opinion?
Oh man. Well, I guess I've been fortunate enough to work with people who are very musically appreciative, and that sounds like that sounds like I'm humble bragging. I'm really not that good, and that's not even just being modest. But at my home church, I've played with the same team for 8 or 10 years, and the guy who leads it is he's in his mid 30s or so now, and so he really likes that like mid 90s, early 2000s kind of music sound.
hmm
And it's, he picks from the same pool of 50 songs or so. And we played all of them a million times. So you roll up on Saturday to practice. We practice for an hour and call it good. And
Yeah,
it's pretty good. It sounds fine. But then on closer to what you were describing, I was playing for my friend's church. He had a Celebrate Recovery program on Tuesday nights over in Redmond. Awesome program for addiction and
yeah,
emotional injury and trauma and things like that. Really, really wonderful program. And they wanted to do like a big concerted effort toward making their music sound great. And so they brought their same Sunday morning uh, um, consistency and discipline to Tuesday night. And so the rule was you show up and you know your part in your key, and you know exactly how you're going to play it. And it's downbeat at 6, which means you don't set up at 6. You set up at 5:45, downbeat at 6, and we play through it 2 or 3 times. Everyone knows their parts. We've got AVM so we can hear everything perfectly, and Everyone's super professional and ready, and there's something to be said about either way. The first way a little bit more like just feel it out and play what comes to you, and the other way is you show up and you're prepared, and you don't really even need to think. You just play the parts that you practiced all week. So
Mhm. Mhm.
there's I feel like being an electric player especially, we have the opportunity to step away from the recording more than most other parts of the band. um,
Right.
and whether that's whether that's because we think the recorded part is too distracting or it's annoying. There are parts that I refuse to play, like Hillsong's Hosanna, because man, we freaking played that 100,000 times, and I never want to play it again.
Mhm.
And then there are parts that are really cool, and but they're too distracting, and you got to just cut it out.
Yeah, yeah. I know that's a very interesting point, and I know like a lot of majority of the tracks that you hear, the parts going on, are keyboard parts
Hmm.
that aren't replicated easily.
Yeah,
But at the
for sure.
same time, like I've seen a lot of bands where, they got like a keyboard player and they're just basically, holding down the chord,
Hmm.
kind of like as a foundation,
Right.
and not playing anything more than that. And I gotta think, wow, that's gotta be hard as a keyboardist,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
boring. It's got to be boring.
Yeah, to hold back and not play anything other than just the chords.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a lot of good conversation about music at church, and um, time and again, the conclusion is, church should have really good music. It should have, arguably some of the best music.
Hmm.
And uh, I listen to some of what's coming out, and there's a lot of good stuff there. But a lot of the time, I'm disappointed by lazy writing. I'm disappointed by lazy lyricism. Just old, tired, cliche
Yeah.
metaphors and similes and verbiage that just I've sung this 50 times in a different song. Why? I didn't need a new single to sing this basically the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And yet at the same time, I think a lot of that like conversation is about like kind of the mainstream top
Hmm.
40
Hmm.
stuff. Like there is a lot of really creative stuff out there
Yeah.
that might not be as mainstream, but it's
Hmm.
out there and people are producing it and doing it, and there are churches that have that in their culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, like most like across the board like American church, it's very much and I think it's a shift from 20, 30 years ago where most churches didn't have great music,
Hmm.
and they're doing certain things to try to make sure that they are having good music, but they're it kind of becomes like the same across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like overcorrected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
overcorrected is a good
Yeah.
word for that. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, cool. So we got a little bit of your background there. Um I guess I'd like to. What if you would describe your role at? Tell us a little bit about Sinusoid and describe your role there and kind of what you do day in day out there.
Okay. Well, I guess my title is Director of Online Services, but what that really means is just take care of everything and make sure it's all running smoothly. So most days, my schedule looks something like, take care of customers in the morning. First thing I come in, got a handful of customer requests or whatever, um, or like artist requests or whatever. Just checking out my email or my text messages or or what have you. Taking care of people. And they head over to vendors and make sure that all of our inventory is coming in smoothly and that we have good relationships with everyone. We try to be friendly. Going on to our dealers, taking care of them, making sure they don't have any questions or requests or what have you. And then typically around then, it's about time for lunch. Uh, and I have about 30% of the time I have the dubious honor of choosing where we eat lunch, and it's surprisingly difficult. We have a lot of good food in our area, to the point where our dev actually made like a food randomizer It's like a private page on our on our website, and you just hit the button and say like, hey, I don't want to do, I don't want to do wings, I don't want to do pizza or whatever, and then it'll give you, 10 suggestions or whatever. But anyway, after that, typically I'm checking up on how production's going. I'm sure you guys have heard Kevin's name around, and he's been doing a great job taking care of the production side of things and making sure that all our dealers, our artists, our media friends like yourself and our customers are getting the right thing at the right time, and at a good clip, really. And so I make sure that they're taken care of. Um, by the end of all of that, it's typically around 4 or 5. I try to keep the website pretty tidy. If there's any bugs or glitches or missing images or whatever, I'll take care of those. Do a little Photoshop and do a little Illustrator or whatever. And then it's about time to call it a day and go home and do it all again the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you say something, and I thought about this. The majority of would you say the majority of Sinusoid's business is done through online store?
hmm Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're shifting toward uh, um, dealers and things like that. And it's an interesting balance because we've been direct sale for forever. We're almost 4 years old now, I think, and it's been direct sale that entire time. And it's kind of a different ball game when you're going to dealers, when you're going to, when you're doing OEM stuff for whoever. It's kind of a different ball game, and definitely learning by doing and scraping a lot of knees and elbows trying to figure out how to run this thing. But I do
Mhm.
appreciate Andy gives us the opportunity to really learn by doing. And we've made a lot of mistakes, but we've also had a lot of successes that we didn't expect just because we were given the opportunity to try rather than just do this and do it this way and do it my way.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that for sure, and I think we've made a lot of great strides as a company. Even just this year, we've had a lot of big victories.
Now I noticed. How long have you been with Sinusoid?
I think I'm coming up on 2 years
Okay.
in August, so
And the company's 4 years old.
just about.
Okay. And so I noticed the other day you posted something about the fact that you had got like in the top 100 dealers
Oh yeah.
recognized by NAM, and that's really cool because there's that's a fairly short amount of time, to go from being unheard of to all
hmm
of a sudden, hey, you're out there, you're legit, you're
Yeah.
part of the gear world, and
Yeah.
that's very fast moving. And of course, today everything is fast moving,
Right. For sure.
but that's incredible.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
the fact that you're doing the direct sale thing,
hmm
um, I know that's got to have its challenges, but then also that's kind of the way of the future as well.
Yeah, and it's a big piece of it. Yeah, and being able to directly communicate with customers is it can be challenging for sure. And we've had some mixed, mostly good, but we've had some mixed experiences trying to take care of customers and such. But yeah, it's definitely a big honor for us um, to be there. Some of the other companies that are winning are the ones that you see on YouTube and the ones that you hear all about, and it's really humbling. And I'm grateful. I think a big part of it has been all the friends that we've made through the business, through the industry, through NAM, through whatever podcasts and such. We've really made some great friends, and they've supported us, and now we're here.
Yeah, I find that very interesting, and I'm kind of new to podcasting, just a few months in,
Sure, sure.
but I find it very interesting that you guys have partnered with podcasts,
hmm
kind of as a means of um, marketing,
hmm
because that's not something you see any other companies doing, not that I'm aware of.
hmm
And do you think it's forward thinking, or just do you got it's because you enjoy podcasts yourself, or I mean, how'd that come to that point?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything that you mentioned. And we met a lot of y'all at trade shows, whether it was the Seattle Guitar Festival in Tacoma or at Winter NAMM or Summer NAMM, and just getting to know everyone, having the opportunity to get an inside look, I guess, at the media part of the gear industry has uh, proven very fruitful. And I don't say that to sound like we make friends because we want to further the business. I think it's more like we make friends, and they're kind enough to share their wisdom and their experience and their connections to help us grow the business. And it's sort of like a happy byproduct. And so the whole podcast thing we found to be immensely helpful, whether it's just being friendly or having someone to hang out with at these trade shows or at Cowerfest or whatever, karaoke nights. um, but there's also like the aspect of the podcasters they're boots on the ground, and they know all the cool new stuff coming out. They often have their paws on new gear sooner than most everyone else. It's the podcasters and reviewers that get the gear to try out, and everyone needs cables. It seemed like a pretty smart way to partner with some of these media folks, and I guess it's working. So
Yeah.
I'm real thankful for all of what you guys are doing, and it's been a big help to be able to just basically say these are some of the best cables we can make. Please just enjoy them and let people know.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this: do you get to be part of the production side of things?
Uh, not as much anymore. The only time that I'd really pitch in is if we're slammed. And
Okay.
from what I've seen of the last 2 years, the worst, and in a way the best. But the hardest we're hit is Black Friday sale, which is our only sale of the year. Going into the holidays, going into Christmas time when everyone's buying gifts for their guitarists and bassists and whatever. Um, Going into winter NAMM, and I think at any given time in the last uh, in that period, both this year and last year, we had 300 to 500 cables to build at just on any given day, and so we were coming in. We were staying late. We were coming in Saturdays. I came in a couple Sundays. I worked on Thanksgiving, just making sure things were going right. I think I made 20 or 30 cables that morning. But you do what you got to do. But I'm really thankful for Kevin and for the production guys, um, who have been really on top of their game, keeping production flowing. We've done a lot of streamlining in terms of production and making sure things are more and more efficient. So they're growing pains, but we're already seeing the fruit of some of these measures that we're taking. So the short answer to that is no. But the reason for that is because Kevin and Tyler and Nathan are doing such a great job holding the fort down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I can imagine, like, especially when you're direct selling, like
Hmm.
that's pretty consuming, just keeping the website going every day and
Yeah,
handling that in. I mean, that's a full-time job in and of itself.
yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, like being able to jump on and, hey, we got to get this out. Let's all work together and get these cables out the door.
Oh yeah, big
The
time.
ability to do that.
Yeah. And I think we've really valued everyone being able to kind of do a little bit of everything, and
Yeah.
so it's important to learn, the basics of wiring, just so if we need you in a pinch, we have you. And so yeah, it's been good. It's been a good transition toward efficiency, toward economy, and then especially at the rate that that Andy and I have been wanting, mostly Andy, have been wanting to release new products. Like we put out a load of new products and product types this year, and we're really fortunate to have Andy's experience. He was on tour for a long time. He was working live sound for a long time, and he knows what he's doing. And more important, honestly, as a business for us, is that he knows what people who are doing those things need and the kind of things that they look for. So, for example, we launched power cables, I think earlier this year, and that's actually been a pretty big seller. And they're just IECs. You plug it
Mm-hmm.
into your amp or to your pedal board or whatever, and they're simple. But then there's the part of our business which is people who really value how their gear looks, and that's a totally valid thing to want. It's absolutely valid to want all your gear to match and to look good, and just obviously to sound good. It should go without saying. And so we cater to that, and I feel like Andy's Andy's pushes for new products are very in line with what we should be offering as a cable solution.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost like you guys are very much in real time with. I know you guys engage on social media
Hmm.
very highly, and it's like you guys are in real time with what a lot of guys are wanting at
Hmm.
the moment, and I
Yeah.
think that's good.
Yeah.
It's like you got your ear to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, we try to keep up, and we had a Y cable release a couple weeks ago, which basically a TRS to double TS for like basically for like Strymon or like Chase Bliss, some of these like crazy pedals that can have all these extra expression or what have you. And as soon as we released that, we had a few like a few dozen people write in and just say, "This is what I've been wanting forever. Thank you. I'm buying one now." And so just keeping in step with what people are asking for, especially if they become increasingly common, then of course, we start to have some data points as far as, well, what should we release next? What should we work on?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, do you in your job at what point of like measuring any kind of like analytics, how do you find that on like through your website what people are looking at
Hmm.
and in making decisions about the company? Is there any is that a factor?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's true. It's true at Sinusoid more than it's been ever at any job that I've had, and rightly so. I think um, some of the places that I used to work at were a little bit more old fashioned, and they kind of just took sales numbers and surveys and things like that. But we have so many tools at our disposal now, and especially because Andy's a numbers guy. I'm not at all a numbers guy, but he really puts a lot of value on data, which it comes down to us, imprinting that value upon the information that we have and we have access to, because we can see in no uncertain terms what people want or what people need or have a lack of or are disappointed or whatever with, and it gives us so much information to improve our company, to better our company, to better our service, to better anything. And that's really the name of the game for us, is how to be a better business. And in our industry where there's anything could happen to any company at any time and just break out. Like, we really just want to have our ducks in a row, and work toward that moment. And a little bit of luck, but a lot of preparation. And that's where data comes in. That's where some of these analytics come in.
I know one of the things that kind of made me perk up my ears when I was talking with Andy
Hmm.
um, is he said that even like you guys had done some tests about emails,
Hmm.
like what day of the week and what time of the day
Hmm.
is the best when people pay attention. Like if you're gonna send an ad or something like that,
Yeah,
what the best time of day is to contact people.
yeah. It's interesting. Like some of that, yeah, some of that information is just it's so interesting. But then you look at your own daily schedule, and you're like, yeah, I'd probably be into looking at an email about that time. I don't have anything to do, whatever. So, it's so interesting, and like in a way, it's common sense, but in another way, uh, like we just never think about it. Yeah, we've got a couple new things coming down the pipeline, and um, whether it's expanding some of our product offerings in terms of cable or in terms of some of these new plugs that our vendors are developing. I think there's some pretty exciting stuff happening. And then I think the biggest thing too is we've been working really hard at trying to perfect for production, which I know as soon as people hear this, they're gonna be bummed again because we are out of stock, and it's frustrating for sure. But we want to get the production process to be perfect, and these things take time. They take a lot of excuse me. They take a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of thought, and so we want to put out the best product that we can. And because the sliver is so strongly associated to our name, we want it to be a strong link in our in our product and in our process and what we present to the world.
Absolutely. And do you know is the supply chain ever a concern?
It's I think it's probably a concern for everyone in any business. For us, uh, there there are ups and downs, and we have a joke that a lot of our vendors just they seem to drop the ball a lot for us, but it's part of the business, and we work around it. Um, we again with putting in some of these measures, we're able to forecast a lot better now. We're forecasting better now than we ever have, and so basically we want to eliminate dead time where customers order something and they have to wait longer than a projected 5 days, 5 business days. We want to just eliminate that entirely, and we've taken a lot of strides toward that this year.
Yeah, yeah. That's that's a tough thing because I've talked to other like builders and stuff, and that's
Hmm.
always been a concern. I know like some mount makers, a lot of their stuff that's sourced comes from like single vendors,
Yeah,
and if they get backed up, it
yeah, it's a
really can put a
disaster. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest thing really is the Black Friday period, um, and the Christmas period or the holiday period, and then after that, we hit winter NAM pretty hard. We try to line up as much business as we can, meet as many new people as we can, and learn from as many of our friends as we can. Uh, so that those are by far the busiest, and then we see a bit of a spike too right before summer hits because everyone's got their summer camps, they've got their summer tour going on. A lot of our artists are traveling hard this summer, and that's true for a lot of our customers as well. So it comes in waves. You have good days and you have not as good days, but like you said, when you keep it consistent, you can keep things going and you keep morale up. And just having production numbers up, just it adds so much to how the business runs.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so you guys are, I know you and Andy, I think, are going to be at Summer now,
Yep, yep. I'll
and
be for sure. Andy's gonna. I think he'll be there for a day. He's
okay,
working some stuff out. Yeah, yeah.
okay. What's kind of the game plan there? Are you guys going to have a booth or?
No, we'll just do our thing. We'll walk around and basically
Yeah,
hang out with our friends, our builder friends who do have booths. Try and meet some new people and network a little more. And that's basically what trade shows look like for us. The thing with cables is that the majority of people don't think that they're exciting or sexy. So it's hard to justify a booth for it. But we found a lot of success kitting out other people's booths, our friends' booths, and
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good
other
strategy.
demo
Uh,
rigs lined up. Yeah, yeah, and it's been really fruitful for us. We get to make a new friend and get a chance to learn about some of what they're doing. We'll often line it up such that we're just trading gear with these businesses, and a lot of the times, a lot of the time, it makes a lot more sense to trade gear rather than to pay for it or whatever. People don't necessarily like taking things for free, so they'll say, well, why don't we swap some gear? And that way we've got marketing fodder on both sides, in addition to making a friend, in addition to having someone to learn from and to impart some of our experience to as well. And so it's really mutually beneficial. And it's been like, it's surprisingly been a big help for us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is this your first time, Sinusoid's first time to go to Summernam?
Uh, I went last year, and
Okay.
I'm not sure who in the old crew went to Summernam in the past. I'm sure Andy's been in his years in the biz, but I'm excited. I'm excited to hang out, obviously with you and with Ryan. But Summernam is just summer camp basically. And you hang out and you eat tacos and drink root beer and coffee or whatever. It should be fun. It should be a grand old time.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Ryan the other day I was talking to him and he said the first thing he wants is some hot chicken.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Rick Matthews went like like 4 times or something last year, and he was raving about this one spot. Unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to go, but man, I am trying to get my paws on some of that.
Yeah, I hear it's good and as much as I like fried chicken, the idea of hot chicken just sounds even more amazing. And
Yeah, yeah. The only thing I'm not excited about is it's going to be super stinking hot and kind of humid too. I remember last year I went with John, who was one of the early Sinusoid hires, and it was kind of a lull in the show. It was maybe like 3 or 4, and we still had a bunch of events to go to that night. So I said, "Well, you want to get some coffee?" And we couldn't find a coffee spot for like 3/4 of a mile, and so we ended up hoofing it, uh, and it was a terrible idea. We ended up getting a lift for like a 2-minute drive back to the show just because it was so hot, and like, man, my ears were like just brain matter coming out of them. It was so hot I couldn't think, I couldn't talk. Uh,
yeah, that's
yeah,
that southern. Well, that's I live in that world every day.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to rub it in.
No, it
Yeah.
was quite the relief to go to California the other day and
Oh yeah.
last
Okay.
week and get
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
away from this weather.
Good. 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 Wow. Oh man. But it's gonna be good. I'm really looking forward to rooming with you guys, and um, I'm I'm sure people are gonna put on little after parties or get-togethers or shindigs or whatever. And I'm sure we'll be able to hit up some of those and meet some cool Nashville people. I remember seeing a couple pretty cool artists just hanging around last year, and so I um, make, plan to make some introductions.
Absolutely. Well, I hope it's a fruitful time for you guys as
Oh
well.
yeah, thank you.
Um, well, thank you so much, Anthony, for coming in and just hanging out with me on this Saturday.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
and it's always fun to talk about music and just and I love what you guys do
Thank
and
you.
are doing, and I'm
Thank you.
and very impressed by it. And so I know our listeners are gonna have a good time just getting to know the man behind the marketing at Sinusoid just a little bit more. And so, but one thing you need to do more
Yeah.
off, I think.
Yeah.
this is my opinion,
Okay.
is to do more live streams.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Especially, I
So
haven't
yeah,
seen the
that
waffle irons going.
oh man, yeah, I was about to say the donut waffle iron was a big hit. So the thing is, we don't really have adequate tools to clean the waffle iron at work. So we basically just leave the crusted on caramelized sugar there. What's a little more caramelized sugar? Yeah, let me look into that. Let me get some of that going next week. I'll try and get some donuts in.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, that was legendary for sure.
Good. Good to hear. Good to hear. It was great for us too.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
man.
man. Well, you have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see each other in a few weeks. Okay.